All right, guys, welcome back to the Hunter Base Podcast. What do Maverick Hunters do when they're not hunting Mavericks? They go back to the base, recharge, and shoot the shit. I'm your host with the most, Zero Master, and I have my co-host, who's most verbose, Canadian Jutsu, here once again.
You actually got through that for once without stuttering.
I did? I think I've done it other times with it stuttering.
I don't know, like, the last few ones that I've listened to, I clap now.
I clapped when I heard it.
But yeah.
But
I'm Canadian Jutsu, as he said.
Yeah.
Hope you're having a wonderful afternoon / evening / day / I don't know, midnight hour.
It's Sunday afternoon for us.
Yeah. But to them, they could be listening to this on the toilet at 2 a.m. in the morning while regretting all the life choices that they've made.
Or they could be on the toilet listening to the Smash Ultimate music on their Switch.
That's true. 28 hours of continuous music.
Exactly. Oh my God. So this is episode 13, guys. You know, unlucky 13, lucky 13, however you want to see it. But today we're going to be talking about something that's been a buzz a bit for the last little while. We're going to be talking about video game emulation and preservation. As many of you are aware, recently some big ROM sites got taken down by Nintendo, and in response to that, Emu Paradise, probably one of the biggest ones out there, decided to take down all their ROMs. The emulators themselves are still available because that's not illegal, apparently. The emulation of the hardware is not, but the actual games having those, the ROMs, is. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit. The first thing I wanted to say is I'm not really surprised that this was going to happen. Nintendo has always been kind of, we're our intellectual property, about stuff. And which they should. They got to protect their intellectual property. But I didn't think that it would, this would finally be the straw that broke the camel's back for Emu Paradise. Or the emu's back, I guess, in this case. Because emu, yeah, whatever. But it's just interesting because they took down everything. Not just Nintendo stuff. They took everything down. I think it's probably because they're afraid more companies will take in on this, but I don't know. Nintendo's always been a little more harder on that stuff than anything else. And a lot of people are saying that this means that maybe there could be some kind of, virtual console-esque service coming to the Switch, but we don't know yet. They've said there isn't one. So, who knows? Well,
I know that is it October that the premium paid service for the Switch is coming out?
Is that when it starts? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's October or November. I can't remember. It's sometime at the tail end of this year. But I know that they have this whole thing about NES. A bunch of NES games are going to be provided with the service. Now, probably what that means is oh, look, we got the Marios and the Excite Bikes and stuff like that.
Games that you own 6 times over.
Yeah, it's not going to be crazy different than what they've been offering in the past with the Wii channel, Wii Shop channel, and the Wii U Shop channel and stuff like that. Though it is kind of nice that with the paid service, you just get these games. It's not like they're making you pay for them again. You just get the games because you're subscribed to the premium online service.
Yeah, and so it's supposed to rotate out too.
That's
right?
cool. Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing is they haven't been very clear upon that. But yeah, I can understand. Just say the website, Emu Paradise was run. It was just it ran off ads and donations and stuff like that, just to sort of provide. And yeah, it's technically the most prolific thing that people think of when they go for ROMs and stuff like that. One that sticks out in my mind back when I was a teenager and downloading ROMs, it was Cool ROMs, and I don't think that they exist anymore because they had cease and desists sort of given out to them. And I don't know if this is the best idea personally, just because once something's out on the internet, the internet is forever.
Yeah.
Unless they have like cease and desist internet providers from giving me internet because I have browsed Emu Paradise once before,
and
type of deal, right?
The thing is, I think Nintendo has to be aware this is not going to end. Like, it's not like they have to be aware that this is not going to. I mean, like, if Sony took companies to court for PlayStation emulators back in the 90s and lost, like, do you think that Nintendo knows this isn't going to be the end of people like being able to access ROMs? I think they're just doing it to make it more difficult. So, So average Joe can't just Google free NES games and bam, first thing that comes up is Emu Paradise. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But the thing about it is that it's funny because Emu Paradise I always saw as like a secondary site because I hated their download system because they're like if you didn't use a torrent with them, you would have to download, and around this time, the direct download with them was so slow, like, because so many people were, like, downloading ROMs from their site. Like, I think I waited half a day once for a PlayStation game, like, years and years ago. So, like, I would only go there if there was something that I couldn't find anywhere else. And that's what they were good for. They had a lot of weird, rare, obscure shit. That you couldn't find in other places. So
see that's the crux of it, though.
Yeah.
Like the biggest lean towards the argument on why emulation is somewhat important is due to the fact that some of those obscure games, like a game from my childhood that I had on cartridge back when I was a kid, was Snow Bros for the NES. If I wanted to quote unquote relive that experience now, it's such a rare game that I have to pay not Nintendo, not the company that made Snow Bros, which I can't remember if it was Capcom or one of the early people. No, I'm not paying them this money to play it. I have to pay some random guy $300+ to play this game that is no longer in print, that is no longer even recognized by pretty much anybody now. Like, it's so obscure, and that's why it's that price on the open market in the used category. Now, if Nintendo was doing this because they wanted to extend a hand to a used type of market, where they themselves wanted to take their entire NES library and provide it for us at reasonable prices, that would make sense.
See, and the problem with that is all, like, licensing. Like, there's a few things I thought of that could be a problem with that, but I'll get into that in a moment. Another example I want to throw at you was fucking my favorite game in the entire Mega Man franchise, Mega Man 7. Up until Legacy Collection 2 came out, there wasn't a good way to get that game, whether it be digitally or physically, because I don't think it ever came out on Virtual Console. They never released it for it. It wasn't one of the PlayStation re-releases back in the day, so it never got put on PSN. And it only unless you had the original game, which is now more expensive than Earthbound, just for example, on cart, and or you happen to have one of the, like, Xbox, GameCube, PS2, Mega Man Anniversary collections. That was the only way to play it, and those versions of the game, like, aren't the best. So I was happy that Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 did provide 7 through 10, because 7 and 8 especially, like, 7 is like 8 I think got re-released on PlayStation as a PlayStation classic, but Mega Man 7 hadn't been re-released up to that point since the original game came out, or the compilation. So that's just an example of one game. Even Earthbound. How long did people want that game on a Virtual Console before they finally got it? Like,
yeah,
a long
but see,
time.
like I am definitely for the idea that just say Nintendo wants to protect its intellectual property because they re-release Super Mario Bros, you know, Super Mario Bros. 3 and like anything from the NES library, the Super Nintendo library, their first party games, most of them are accessible in certain ways,
yeah.
right?
They're
And I'm totally fine with that. It's the fact that we are not allowed, not even not allowed. It's just because of them, it washes over to other systems that aren't getting as much love. Like one of my favorite series of all time, you know, is the Wild Arms series.
Yeah.
It's an RPG that started its life on the PlayStation. And it moved over to the PS2, and it has slowly died off as just another victim of this type of thing. But the only way you can play Wild Arms now is if you have a PS3, which who knows how long the PS3 PlayStation Store will stay open, is you can get 2. You can't get 1, but you can get 2 on the virtual console there, and then you can get 3 that's been somewhat HDified. But good luck trying to get 4 or 5. Not that they're the best games in the world, but nope, sorry, you got to get an original PS2.
Are they on PlayStation Now?
See, that's the thing is I haven't invested in PlayStation Now, so they may be there. But I hear that the library is very weird, and it's subject to region as well.
That's true. That's the other problem.
Us being in Canada, different things are on our board than in America because of distribution.
Man,
and stuff like that.
I fucking hate
it's like
that.
Netflix.
Like, it's just like what, like, and this is one of the problems with fucking licensing, and why, like, you know, I'm sure if there was no licensing problem or anything, yeah, Nintendo and all these companies just throw those games to be available, and you know, to their you know. I don't know what the best word to say is, but like hats off to them for, you know, trying to get things like Turbo CD and Super CD, like, games, for example, on the Virtual Console. I just bought 2 Turbo CD games that are only available on the Wii Virtual Console as the last 2 games in my, for my Wii Virtual Console excursion before that service goes down. But like when the Wii U came out,
remember that the reason why a lot of those Turbo CD and like what am I thinking of? The thing that that Metal Slug was on, Neo Geo, like those types of things. Those companies have either been liquidated or bought out by other companies, and their licenses have actually expired.
Exactly.
So they're actually freelance, almost freeware stuff. So as long as Nintendo just buys up a couple of things, they can just put a bunch of those games. That's why Neo Geo is like, you can just get it on almost anything now. Because a lot of those licenses aren't linked to a specific company that then wants a cut of a profit. It's just sort of like, boom, I purchase, make a thing for our network, and then boom, we get almost 100% of the profit.
So just to tell you, I just looked up PlayStation Now. Only Wild Arms 3 is available on PlayStation Now. Just Wild Arms 3. Like,
but and on PS4, there's just a straight PS2 to PS4 HD like upscale of the game just available for purchase.
It's just like,
obviously I own, but
so, I mean, I don't really care for a streaming service like PlayStation Now, but at least they're trying, but there's still like a lot of stuff missing, and unfortunately it all fucking comes down to licensing, and it's just stupid.
And popularity of the game. Like something that I like, for example, isn't as important as what the masses like.
This is something that I wanted to talk about because Blondie brings us up a lot in his videos. Like the Tales of series is way more popular now than it's ever been. Like, they have a new game pretty much every year to 2 years. Why the fuck aren't any of the Tales games on PlayStation Now or the PlayStation Classics? Like, none of them are. Like, none of the ones that are, like, older than the PS3 games are available on another platform, unless they've been remade, like Tales of Symphonia. Like, that's a series that...
And Abyss was remade as well. It was on the 3DS. But
like what I'm saying, but you see what I'm saying here? It's just like they fucking like all these games like that are incredibly expensive, like Tales of the 2 Tales games on PS1. Good fucking luck finding those, like, because they're expensive. Blondie got super lucky when he got his copies, and he's been like every one of his Tales of videos, he's like, can we please get these, in a digital format so somebody can get them for, $10 instead of paying,
yeah,
$150.
And it can, and this is the big thing, is we're not being scalped for older, rarer games, and we can directly support
exactly
either the people that created it originally or just the company. I don't care if my money goes directly to Nintendo. They have provided me with hours upon hours of entertainment throughout my life, so I don't mind spending $10 to get a certain game, not some random collector guy that is hyping up the price just because this is to rare games by what standard of a market. Like another good one on the PlayStation side is Tomba. At least Tomba.
Oh my god, Tomba actually has a release. I actually have Tomba and Tomba 2 on PlayStation.
Yeah, like they have been digitally released, but physical copies of them are still in the $200 to $300 range, and I'm okay with that because if you really want the authentic real experience of playing a PS1 game, most of the people I don't play most PS1 games on my PS1 anymore. I put them in the PS3. Mm-hmm. And if you're quote unquote speedrunning or doing something, like challenges and stuff, a lot of people put PS1 games into PS2s because they have enhanced speed disk trays, so they load faster and they work better.
Yeah.
On the PS2, because that was back during the day when backwards compatibility was like a standard and not just sort of like, oh, well, now it's a feature rather than a standard. And I think that sort of bothers me.
Here's another thing that really bothers me is eventually this stuff's going to break down. Just for example, I own a physical copy of Mega Man Legends 2. But there's a scratch on the disc that's just in the wrong spot. It's near the end of the game that I can't beat the rest of the game because there's a scratch on a bit of data, and I've had it rebuffed and stuff, and no matter what I do. So that's just an example. If it wasn't available right now on PlayStation Network, where I have a digital copy of it as well, there'd be no way I'd be able to complete this game.
And I would like to also point out, only on the PlayStation 3.
Yes.
You can't get Mega Man Legends 2 on the PS4's network, and this is a
stupid. And you know what? It would take them no effort to port.
That I don't understand.
It would take them no fucking effort to port that, even if they wanted to put an emulator on top of an emulator to make it work. Like, it would take them almost no effort to do it. But they're not doing it because they want people to subscribe to PlayStation Now, but they just aren't offering the games.
But do they offer Mega Man Legends?
They don't.
2 on
no,
PlayStation
but
Now?
like this is my feeling on it. Ever since they thought of doing PlayStation Now, they're like, we need to stop making these PlayStation Classics because people are more likely to just buy one of those than spend, the monthly subscription on this. Well, it's like, well, no shit, you don't have any of the games I want to play on PlayStation Now. Neither Mega Man Legends game is on there as far as I saw from the list. So it's mostly PS2 and PS3 stuff.
Yeah, which I think is a step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And if we wanted to consume games the same way that we consume other media, right? Like, think of just the movie industry. Any movie that's worth a damn has either gotten a Blu-ray release. Hell, even movies that don't deserve Blu-ray releases get Blu-ray releases.
Yeah. I've got
right?
some.
And this is the thing, is like, there are only small things. Like, I think the only thing that I like to sort of steer at when I talk about like entertainment in like a video format is television shows. Some of them are very hard to actually get your hands on digitally or physically now. Like, it took forever for Reboot, the original Reboot series, to get a proper full DVD release. And the first 2 seasons came out, and then Shoutbox, who owns the rights to Reboot now, to like the actual thing, it took them like 5 years to release seasons 3 and 4 of Reboot. And it's not because of licensing, it's because of supply and demand. Just because these shows aren't in the forefront. And I guess it's the same thing with a lot of these retro games too, that we have to understand is like we as gamers we're old gamers.
Yeah.
Technically, right? We're not like the 14 to 20-year-olds that are purchasing games now. So a lot of those people, unless they're really interested in like playing the past, like we'll take Final Fantasy, for example. Like there are people's first Final Fantasy, which was Final Fantasy 15. And they don't know anything that happens beforehand.
Yeah.
They may have heard about Final Fantasy 7 just because of how it changed the face of whatever, just because a lot of people talk about it in our gaming sphere, right? And it sort of leans towards the popularity on why people like, Peanut Butter Gamer, Pro Jared, JonTron, like they've stuck out because more younger people have subscribed to them and are now trying to play older games.
Exactly.
They want to, they idolize these people.
There is a market for it. Like, one thing that, Pat the NES punk, Pat Contry, said on one of his podcasts is that, he's talked to, there was like a con or something. He's like, he talked to more 14-year-olds who were playing Super Nintendo games than, than people his age at one convention or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but I'd have to find it. But so kids, like, if they see these they see these videos or whatever, they're like, kids who weren't alive during these times are getting into retro gaming.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, it's the same thing that happens in the music and the movie industry, right? This gaming has evolved into another form of entertainment. So, I mean, I wasn't alive when the Star Wars movies came out, right? But I have watched those old movies. And it's the same thing with games, right? Is just because I wasn't alive when, I think I was 0 years old when like The Legend of Zelda came out for NES. But I have in my gaming sphere played it now.
Yeah.
And I played it maybe 20 years after it came out.
Like, fucking dude, we weren't even around when the NES was big. Like, I think I was born in 88, so that's when it was on the outs. And I have an NES Classic, and I'm a huge fan of Mega Man.
In 88 and 87, that was the height of the Nintendo's popularity.
Yeah, but we would have been
the original
too young
NES.
To play it. Like, that's the thing.
But so by the time that we hit 5 to 6 years old, that's when the Super Nintendo,
Sega Genesis, those were the things. But even just looking at that, like, just for example, my dad had an fucking Intellivision for years, forgot about it, didn't tell us about it. My brother and I discovered it. We played Intellivision. One of my most recent console purchases next to the Switch was an Atari 2600. Like, this thing was dead in the water when I 5 years before I was born, and I still can put a game in it and say, they're not all the games are for me. Like, Atari 2600 games are very simple. They're probably, I would say, closer to what a mobile game would be today, but like
even simpler than most mobile games now.
Like, just for example, like one of my new favorite series is Defender. I fucking love Defender on the 2600, and I'm trying to find Frenzy, the sequel, which is kind of hard to find. I have Defender 2 on NES, which is like a weird pseudo sequel. So, Frenzy's not Frenzy's the sequel to Berserk. Sorry, I can't remember the sequel to Defender right now, but I love Defender. Yeah. Like, I can play that game for hours. If I need
unfortunately I'm not very helpful. It's sort of out of my realm.
No, that's fine. It'll come to me later, like, is what it is.
And the thing is, I'm not personally interested. Like, it's one of those things that I think I'd play it for like 5 minutes just to sort of see, or watch a 10-minute video about someone talking about Atari.
Yeah. Atari's a hard one to make for that case, and Nintendo, like, NES was when they started, like, games started being more than just these like time waster things. They became like actual like things to do. Like, one of the most popular games of all time, Super Mario Brothers, like, was revolutionary at that point because it had more than 5 levels.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, I don't mean to redirect this, but we are sort of getting off the topic of emulation a little bit and just talking about gaming history, but I think that if this podcast proves anything, that there is at least two people out there that are interested in like the same type of retroness that, you know, what we would do by going back and watching old movies. Now, I'm not saying that every single game needs to be re-released. Like, as much as I have a soft spot for Booger Man, I don't think that there is like a reason on why we need.
You know, they're making like a Booger Man remake, right?
Yeah, I know they are, and I'm trying not to think about it because they seem to be doing this a lot. Like, instead of releasing the old games and letting them stand the test, we're getting what's happening to the movie industry. Is like, why have a unique idea when we could just, you know, remake an old game that was perfectly fine? You know,
I'm the worst.
At least Bubsy, they brought him back and made a new game out of him,
and it's the best game in the series. It wasn't like they remade
Bubsy 1.
Like, I mean, I'm the worst for that though. Like, I get more excited about movie sequels and like sequels to old games than new IPs. But then there's stuff that does come out that I'm intrigued about. So,
well, like, here's an example. Like, Leisure Suit Larry. You did a review on it last year.
Yeah, you edited it.
And yeah, I edited that. But like, because I had to do some research because I needed to get some like proper photos and everything like that just to make sure that your review was. But they re-released and remade the first game.
Yeah, a second time.
In like 2011 or 2012 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like crappy.
Yeah.
Even though it had the same people that worked on the original and everything like that, it was done not for the fact that it was for the love of the series. It wasn't about coming back to the series. It was about tapping into that nostalgia. You know, like, hell, a good way of doing old to new is what Steam's been doing, is they just re-release old PC games. How is it so easy for the Steam platform to be able to do this, but not other video game companies? I guess because console games need to be properly monetized in a different way. And PC games have more of a free software, like freeware type of mentality to them, because a lot of them, like, they've lost, like, the developer has just gone under, they've changed into something else. A lot of things became freeware, like Doom, for example, was freeware for like a really, really long time. Mm-hmm. You couldn't even get it physically for like the longest time. You had to like mail in, like, to get a code to unlock the freeware versions that came with all types of graphics cards and other things.
I mean, and that's where sites like Good Old Games are great too, because like games that were like abandonware for that point, like, have been re-released on Good Old Games and now on Steam, but there still is a lot of games that like are become abandonware. And for some reason, for PC games, it's not as big of a deal, but for console games, it's, you know, they're just called ROMs. Like, there's no like abandonware thing that I know of for, you know, NES games, Super Nintendo games, stuff like that. And that's because even if it wasn't made by Nintendo, it still had to go through them for licensing. And I think that's the problem, because there was no licensing. Like, you didn't license PC games through Microsoft. You were a company that made a PC game and you had a publisher, and it got put through there. I think that's probably one of the reasons why, is because you had to make your game for specific hardware. And if it was a PC, somebody could have any kind of odd configuration to their system to be for it. So there are certain things, like you would make things for like back in the day, like you'd make things for Apple II, you'd make things for like Commodore 64, stuff like that. But again, like, Apple wasn't regulating that. Commodore wasn't regulating any of that. It's completely different. I think ever since
it's open source. It's not development.
I think the reason for that is ever since Nintendo became, you know, brought back the video game industry, as much as we want to praise that, they also created like this whole licensee thing, which is what console games have been running for ever since the NES. Because in the late 70s, early 80s, that's why we had the video game crash. Too many people were making video games for the consoles, like the Atari and stuff like that. So Nintendo took an opportunity to take control of it. And that's why It's probably that's
the
why there's no
certified
abandonware
by
for
Nintendo
NES, because they had
stamp.
control over it. So and that's why. And I think that's just bad. Even though Nintendo, a game was on a Nintendo system, if it was developed by Hudson or by like fucking Enterbrain, for example, who don't even exist anymore, I feel like Nintendo shouldn't have the right to say you can't play that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing is it's not that they went after Emu Paradise because of like an LJN game.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't go after them for that type of stuff. They didn't go after them for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Right? They went after them because they hosted, Super Mario Bros., Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars, Donkey Kong Country, which are, let's be frank, the most popular downloaded emulated games.
That is true. Yeah.
And the same thing is, just say that Square decided to go after them because most of the top 5 on Emu Paradise was Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy Tactics. It's like 4 of the top 10 are just only Final Fantasy.
And you know what? That's a good point, because it's not just Nintendo's fault in this case, or Sony's or anything. I think it's like the way that ROMs were handled, instead of being looked at a way of preservation, it's been looked more as like a way to get free games to like play in your computer or play whatever.
But I can't deny the fact that was a deciding factor for me when I was really getting into these games. I wouldn't have such an appreciation for Final Fantasy VI, or in this case Final Fantasy III, if I hadn't emulated it. I never would have played it because I was a child at the time, so I couldn't just buy video games with, work money or whatever. On top of that, it was getting a new game was a big deal back then, right?
Yeah.
We used to play those things to death.
Yeah.
It's the reason why we have such a connection to a lot of these games, is because we would get them and we would religiously play them over and over and over again. It's the reason why Mega Man X2 is my favorite Mega Man X game. It's definitely not the best Mega Man X game, but for me personally, it's my favorite because I had the cartridge. I played it I think one summer I played it almost every single day. And that's like a summer vacation type of thing, because that's what I had. The same thing with Final Fantasy VII, Super Mario RPG. These games, they stick out to you because we had to play them so much. Yeah. But now there's such a variety of games, and as older gamers, we're able to afford a game or two a month, depending upon your budget, right? And your own expenses and everything like that. And we tend to just sort of, just cycle through these games, less of being I played it once, I beat it, that's it, I'm not going to touch it for X number of months. Right? So it's the same reason why, I personally play Chrono Trigger once a year.
Yeah.
Because it's just sort of part of a ritual that I do, because I love that game to death. It's not my favorite game of all time, but at the same time, these games that I never owned originally, I own them now, whether that be digitally or in physical copy. It's just sort of this is the thing, is these games have an important place in history. They have an important place in my memory as a gamer, but I have to thank emulation for giving me the chance to play these games, because they were incredibly expensive. People bitch about the fact that games are, at least here in Canada anyway, they're $79.99 now. Canadian.
That's a lot for a video game.
Monopoly.
After tax, you're looking at fucking $89.
90. It's 90.28, and I will know that because I worked at a game store for years, right? It pops out exactly the price of what it is, right? The tax included here in Canada on a $4.99 game is $5.64. I will remember this forever because you work in retail and this type of stuff. But that's the thing. And I feel that with Nintendo pushing things like the NES Classic, the Super Nintendo Classic, and there may be an N64 one around the horizon. Who knows? But they have continuously underestimated the demand for this type of thing. Because you went out, you bought an NES Classic, right?
I bought one on the second release.
On the second release of it, and then you got your Super Nintendo.
My SNES Classic, I went out launch day, like at 6 a.m. to get one, and they were sold out.
Yeah.
I had to get Angel Halo to send me one because he bought like a bunch of them when they got restocked on Amazon, and he shipped one to me. That's the only reason why I have the SNES Classic. Now, I do want to talk about the NES and SNES Classic real quick. That those are a step in the right direction because they have third-party games on them. But that's not enough. And obviously, just like you said, Nintendo underestimated their sales. Like, heavily. And I think also Nintendo does this thing where they're like, let's make it super exclusive so that people really want it. And then they don't make it available after the fact. Like, they're only just
it
this
hurts their business
year.
Strategy because they get scalped. Like,
which again, it makes no sense. I don't know why Nintendo wants to have this thing be like, it's special, you know? But really, people just want to buy it and play the motherfucking games. So, like, why do you have to, like, make this, like, oh, look, it's like a collector's thing? Yeah, I have those games 100 times over. I've got to have at least 5 different copies of Super Mario World. Super Mario Brothers. So, I didn't need the NES Classic. I got it because it was convenient. I got it because it was, it kind of was a novelty item. And it was something that, I didn't have to, do a bunch of, like, setup for. If I want to play it, I plug it in, and I play it. And that's why ROMs... Yeah,
because plugging in old systems is the worst experience when it comes to capturing, especially for people like us that do Let's Plays and reviews and other things like that.
To capture the Saturn for my Mega Man 8 review, I had to make sure I had, the Saturn, like the right Saturn controller, the right adapter cable for my capture card. I had the memory unit plugged into it, just for an example. Like, it's so ridiculous to think about, like, this stuff. And like,
a lot of the times...
What for us, like, that's not a big deal in the long run, but for somebody who, like, is like, I want to go out and buy a Nintendo and buy some games, some HDTVs don't even have a composite output in them, or input in them. Like, it's gotten to the point where, like, you can't do it anymore unless you own, an old TV, or you own this and that, whatever. And, as retro gamers, we have the access to that. We know. But, like, average Joe...
Well, we've taken those steps, and over the years, as collectors, we realized that if we wanted to capture this footage or anything like that, we needed these extra things.
Exactly.
So we were ready to pay the expense for it, and we did the research to know on how we do it. Like, still, I'm working on a review right now of Save the Homeland, Harvest Moon Save the Homeland. And thank God that the game is released as like a PS2 to PS4 game. Like, you can download off the PS4 marketplace. I'm glad that it's at least getting some showing there, because now I don't have to hook up my PS2 and then go through, if I want the best quality, go through S-Video, which also has its own problems, because then you got to mix in a different audio cable setup and everything like that, just to rig it up to my HD television. And plus, obviously, it has to go through a converter, which also screws up the quality. So even though I have the original physical copy that I purchased, oh gosh knows how many years ago, how old this game is now, is still annoying to even want to play it today.
And just going back for a moment too, when I got my 2600, I have a 35-inch. Oh, it's probably bigger than that. A Hitachi CRT TV, which is fucking fantastic for old school games. It looks marvelous. So I normally would play my Atari on that. When we had a friend over, I decided, hey, let's hook it up to my brother's TV, which still has a coaxial input. His HDTV has a coaxial input, oddly enough. And it just looked terrible. We didn't want to play it because it looked awful. Because these new TVs can't show what older games look like than they do on a CRT, because the CRT is built for that. And that's the other problem too. Like, the reason why emulation's so good is you can change, like, how the display of the image. And that's why things like the NES Classic and SNES Classic are so important, because they upscale these properly to a newer television, which is something that you can't do with an old system. It's just a limitation.
Look at what just came out. Look at Shenmue and Shenmue 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
Those games actually look like you could play them now. Now, they're obviously from a different era, and they still have the jank that Shenmue has always had.
By the way, they're straight up ports that were just upscaled. They're not remasters.
Oh, I know, but I'm totally fine with that, because at least they don't, like, the characters don't look as if they. I always call it squalify. Is whenever Squall in Final Fantasy VIII, because the jump from Popeye pipe cleaner men in Final Fantasy VII to like the almost fully rendered 3D models,
as much
Final
as the PS1
Fantasy
could do.
Yeah, as much as they could do, it looked as if their models, when they were far away or anything, that they just got this distortion to them. And by just tweaking it and upscaling it, and obviously the loading times, oh my god. Mm-hmm. The loading times on the Dreamcast. And apparently the original Shenmue was supposed to be made for the Saturn, which can't do 3D from what I remember.
It can't, just does it really poorly.
Yeah, it just does it really bad. Like, I could only imagine if you had to play that game on the Saturn, for Christ's sakes.
Like,
like, holy cow. But, like, these types of re-releases, I'm fine with. Like, give me an upscaled version of some of the classics from the Dreamcast era. I'm totally for that. And to be fair, actually capturing off the Dreamcast isn't as difficult as it is. I mean, hell, I can capture off my goddamn CDI if I try hard enough. Right?
Yeah, like, well, the nice thing about the Dreamcast is it had output to VGA, which was at the time the highest quality you could get on a display outside of component. So if you get the VGA adapter, you can get VGA to HDMI adapters, and you can hook them up to modern TVs and stuff without lag and whatnot. But the problem is that, like, that's another component you're going to have to go buy for your Dreamcast so you can get that output. Whereas, and things have advanced. Like, there's that whole GameCube HDMI thing that was released that goes into, if you have like an early GameCube that has the component port on the back, you can plug it into it and you can get HDMI out of it. There's been advancements and stuff like that, but it's still like,
why do you think that type of cable, which is not a Nintendo official, it's a third-party cable, why do you think that type of cable was created? Specifically for the GameCube. Mm-hmm. There is a specific reason on why it was created for the GameCube.
Oh, and Nintendo offered official component cables for the GameCube if you had a GameCube that had the digital output on it. The problem is they're so fucking rare that you're better off, like, you'll be spending like $300 for the official cables because they only offer them on their website. You couldn't go to a store and buy them. It was just this weird thing that they did with.
So that's why third parties fill in the space.
And third parties, to be fair, at that time too.
And the only reason why,
hold on. To be fair, at that time too, not a lot of people were hooking up their GameCube's component. Like, that was kind of uncommon. But still, like near the end of its life, that's when HD became a thing. So they should have made it more available. But whatever. Anyways, you were going to say. But like,
this is the thing. This is the thing, though, is the reason why that exists now is because a certain gaming sphere wanted to play the original GameCube with a certain game, and they said, fuck it, we're going to make a proper cable that uses the component port to make it into HD, or into HDMI.
Yeah.
So they did it, because they wanted that authentic experience. Why can't Nintendo capitalize on something like that? Why don't they make official first party? They don't have to remake the NES. They don't have to remake the Super Nintendo. All they have to do is create cables that allow this type of thing to happen. And if they want to charge fucking $50 for those things, yeah, it's probably a ripoff, but people will buy that over having to buy Switch boxes and other things to do so.
I'll say for the NES, that's hard because it only has 2 outputs. But like the Super Nintendo, the N64, and the GameCube all support RGB out of the box, but there were no cables available at the time of them being released, except for the GameCube that offered RGB. So, like the Super Nintendo, it's like a very, like, You just get the HD Retrovision makes cables that no mods required. You just plug it into the component port or the composite component port on your Super Nintendo, and you're getting like 720p 1080i quality on your TV. It's just, and the systems are able to do it. It's just putting the effort out. And obviously Nintendo's not going to go do that because they'd have to remanufacture a bunch of cables for whole systems and whatnot and such. But like, it's still, that's at least another option than like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just looking at their business practice, like,
yeah.
I like to carry my Switch around, but I also like to do it on my TV upstairs, and I have a TV downstairs as well. But if I want to have a secondary dock, I gotta pay a fucking $110.
Is it really that expensive for a fucking second dock?
Yes,
that's
for a
insane.
Second dock, it's $100 and something. And from there, also, don't you dare think about using a third-party dock, because a lot of the new firmware updates of the Switches have been bricking them. If you put it into a third-party dock, there's a chance that it will brick your system because that's see that you're not bullshit. Using an official Nintendo
That's fucking bullshit.
Dock. And see, these are the types of practices that lead to this type of thought process with emulation. They're like, how dare you try and make your life more convenient because we've made it inconvenient for you. Like, I would totally be fine if the dock was $60.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, I know why they do it
plus tax. So
I know why they do it because it's got to have additional processing or something in there. Because I've heard that undocked, the max you can do is 720p, but docked you can get up to like 1080. And apparently there's talks about it becoming 4K. So, but like I see why, but at the same time, it's just like, what the fuck, Nintendo? Like, come on.
Yeah, and this is the thing is, even though when you do give that type of accessibility, right, the fact that a lot of people have multiple televisions in their home now. And I'm not saying that it's really hard to move the dock back and forth.
It isn't.
It's just an extra step that I don't feel like I should have to take. Right?
And again,
if it
we're
be
gamers,
convenient.
So we're used to doing that. But somebody who's like, I want to get a Switch and I want to be able to play it on any TV in my house, and they don't know that much about, hooking shit up. Like, they know maybe the basics. They're not going to want to haul that shit in every room. Like, that's why people have, like, Rokus and shit, and, like, Google, like, whatever the Google fucking thing is called, the Chromecast. $50, and your TV becomes a smart TV. Or most TVs have smart TV capabilities built in now. Fucking, you can buy TVs with Chromecast built in. Why is it so super easy?
My Samsung has it all built in too.
Yeah, why is it so fucking easy for TV shows, movies, whatever? But it's like so difficult for video games. Why is this something? This is a mainstream market now. Why is this so difficult? Why?
I guess because like I can understand one logistic of it is that there is a physical aspect to things like the Switch, the PS4, and the Xbox. They don't have like Samsung deals or Sony. Like, it seems the only one that I find is weird is the fact that Sony doesn't, because they make TVs.
Yeah.
Like they could actually create a TV that is also a PS4.
They have TVs that have the XMB built into them, like smart TVs that have it. So it's not like they haven't thought about doing it. But I'm just wondering why they didn't. Like, maybe the PlayStation TV, was $100 or whatever. That's kind of the idea I guess they had. So at least Sony took a step in the right direction. But you're still paying $100.
Yeah, but
to
it's still
stream your game to another
third piece
system.
of electronic though.
Exactly.
That's the thing is the PS TV is still a console. Mm-hmm. It's not built into their TVs.
Yeah, and it's not a dongle or something like that. Like, it's just fucking.
Yeah. It's like plugging in a USB stick into your TV and saying now it's compatible, but it's not really, because the USB stick is the reason why it's compatible.
Like it's just, gaming is still like far behind in terms of ease of use. In terms of
like I said, I can understand Microsoft, and you know what? Microsoft is doing a better job at integrating itself into the PC sphere with the Xbox. Like the Xbox, you can have. They had that whole games for Windows things, which it was good in practice, but it didn't really like jive with gamers. But at least the connectivity between your Xbox and your PC Windows or your Windows PC, not Apple or anything like that.
If you have like
is relatively good now.
If you have like a cheapo like Zotac machine or something hooked up to your TV and it's got Windows 10 on it, fuck, you can just fucking stream your Xbox One to that. Like, it's just like Oni doesn't own a capture card. That's how he streams now. He streams his Xbox to his PC and then streams it using OBS, which is kind of a weird way of doing it.
It's a weird workaround, but that's what people have to do because it's just not that simple.
Like as much shit as I give Microsoft.
Like, this is the thing, is we're not asking for what I feel is like a really hard sell. Like, if you could market a Sony television that could also play PS4 games, that it has a little disc thing built into the back that you just slip it in, and it's a working PS4 with a television screen, that would be an amazing sell for a lot of people. Because then it's directly coming from the TV. Then it solves all your problems when it comes to people, quote unquote, streaming your games illegally, because that's a thing that was a problem for a while.
Like it's like it. And if you know what, the thing about this too is that it's not hard to mod a Wii. It's not hard to get your hands on a Raspberry Pi and set it up. Like, maybe a little bit for the most basic consumer, but there are guys I've talked to who have almost no technical knowledge, have Raspberry Pis and set it up themselves. And you know what? That's super convenient. If you can if Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, and fucking, as much as Steam's tried with the Steam OS or whatever, if they can make it that convenient, then they have nothing to worry about. But the problem is they don't make it that convenient.
No. And this is why people result in going to emulators, and that type of preservation of games becomes, God, it's so difficult, right? Like, at least, like, for example, we will never not be able to get our hands on Skyrim. And some people says that that's a detriment, that Skyrim's been re-released thousands of times. Same thing with Resident Evil 4. But because these games were popular enough and a lot of people wanted to play them, they have been immortalized now in the gaming sphere. Like, we as gamers, whether we're adults or even younger people now, we're hoarding this technology because we understand that if we don't, we won't be able to get that game back 10, 15 years from now. This is the reason why we have large collections of hard copies of things, because as much as we would like to embrace the digital aspect of games, I can't trust that.
Yeah,
because things like the Wii Shop channel, it's gone.
Yeah, like the thing.
And if you didn't download anything from that, if you invested money in Wii Shop points and didn't spend them, too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. You still have until January, but it's still like.
Yeah, but you can't actually purchase anything anymore. It's not like they cut the service of purchasing stuff in January. It's like, no, if your points exist, you can still use them.
You can still use them. You can't add points now, which I wish I could now because I had more money now than I had when they were going to cut it off. But like, that's why it was such a hard decision on what my last few games I was going to get for it. But I finally made that decision. And this is the thing that really, really, really bugs me about the PlayStation 3. We don't know when they're going to cut off the PlayStation Network for it. Like when they're going to cut off the store and all this other stuff. Because the PS3 still has free online, as far as we're concerned. So you don't have to have PlayStation Plus. But my concern is that they don't make it easy, for one, to back your system up. Which on the Wii, luckily, I can just take the SD card out, back it up to my PC. I've got a copy of everything if it goes haywire. And then I can put it into another system. But with the PlayStation 3, there's no good way to back your system up. There is ways, but there's no easy, usable, reliable way. And when they cut off PlayStation Network, and say the hard drive in my PS3 dies, where the fuck am I going to get my games back? Like all the digital ones I had. I'm not, because I'm not going to have any way of re-downloading them unless I somehow had like a clone of that hard drive and I, put it onto a new one. And the average consumer's not going to know how to do that. Like, it's just that.
And this, by the way, this practice has already shown bad things happen. Like, obviously, notwithstanding things like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 network. Because of whatever reasons, the licensing with Marvel expired. So the distribution of those games, Capcom could no longer do because the licensing that Marvel gave them expired. So they pulled those games from the market board.
Man.
So you can't purchase them anymore.
I know.
That's fine. That's fine because that's a licensing thing. However, I bought Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the 360.
Me too.
But my 360's HD hard drive, it went kaput. I go back to my downloaded games. It's no longer available for download, even though I purchased it. I spent money on it. So that means effectively, at that point, that game, I got no money. I wasted my money because it was not given to me. It wasn't mine. It proves that it wasn't mine. Yeah. It was theirs until they decided I was not allowed to play it anymore.
And there's like, here, let me just give you an example. A friend of mine, Nicole, shout outs to you in Halifax, my bro Nicole. Her 3DS got stolen. And she had to get a new 3DS, and she bought a lot of games digitally. And when she talked to Nintendo, they're like, we need a credit card that you used at the time of purchasing the game. She's like, I don't have that anymore. They're like, well, we can't help you because there's no way we can restore the games without that. Nintendo is the worst for that, by the way. Like, there was a dude who, like, there was a story about a dude who, like, when the Wii U came out, he transferred, like, hundreds of Virtual Console and WiiWare games over from his Wii to his Wii U. Well, the Wii U had an issue, and he had to return it. When he got back, he couldn't get any of his games back. There was no way to re-download them. Luckily, Nintendo gave him, like, something like a voucher for, like something ridiculous, like $2,000 or something like that. So he could get some of the games back. It didn't cover the entire cost of the games that he had spent, but it was something. So, and he could only use it on the Wii U shop. He couldn't use it on the Wii shop. So my friend Nicole got screwed. And it just sucks. Because Nintendo's the worst for that. Sony and Microsoft are better, but Nintendo's the absolute worst for that. You know, your system gets stolen, you're fucked. Unless you keep old credit cards.
Yeah, and that's the thing that why things like game preservation and hard copies of games are so important. Because, and this is why there was that huge backlash when the Xbox One was first revealed with the DRM stuff, where it's like, it's got to check your video games online before you're allowed to play.
It still does that. There's like so many games on the Xbox One that I can't play because, like, you know, it's not my copy.
It's not your copy, or it's like, and I understand that they're trying to, you know, stop the sale of used games and everything like that. But I'm sorry, used games are the reason why I've played so many different games sometimes, because they were cheaper and it was the only way for me to get them, because new games have a shelf life. They disappear. You know, like, as a person that worked in a gaming store, like, I understood when I was ordering certain games that I have to think about the market that my store provides. I can't just be like, yeah, let's get 15 Hyper Neptunia games for the Vita.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's a waste of money because no one's going to buy this. So we get 2, and then 2 people buy it up, and that's it. I'm not going to order more unless, like, 15 people come in and say, hey, I want Hyper Neptunia for the Vita, or whichever version of Hyper Neptunia it is, right? So there's a fine balance on why used games are important. And yes, it sucks that it has grown to a point. Like, hell, if you just look at what's going on with EB, they've had to branch out because they bank too much of their model on the used gaming sphere. And with the re-releases of like things like Shadow of the Colossus or Ico, for example, they could make a bank on the original Shadow of the Colossus for PS2, but then once it got an HD remake, people wanted that. And then now there's a PS4 version of it too, right? So they can't rely on people wanting to get that nostalgia fix by buying a used game. And then on top of that, there's digital copies. So even though you're finished playing a game, you can just delete the digital copy, but then re-download it when you want it.
Yeah. It's
right. And that's the thing. They've had to change their business model. So now they sell fucking backpacks and Funko Pops and other things just to keep their business afloat, because their use of actually preserving games, but also making a crazy, ridiculous profit off of them, has shot them in the foot in certain aspects. Right. So I don't know. If you provide us, this is the thing, if you're able to preserve the games, all games, not just the games you want us to play, right? You're going to preserve Donkey Kong Country. We know that. Like, there's no rhyme and reason that we won't be able to play the Donkey Kong Country trilogy for years and years to come at a relatively reasonable price, right? Unless you want that straight up authentic Super Nintendo experience, you can get these games, right? It's at a very low cost. If you want, an original Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Quest on Super Nintendo plugged into a CRT, you want that super sweet authentic thing, then yeah, all power to you. You spend hundreds of dollars trying to get that shit working. Yeah. But the same should not be said about other games that may not be as popular or first-party titles. And that's why these websites have grown in popularity, not just because of the free part, but because it allows you to experience games that you can't afford now. People will pay. It's holy crap. If just this remaster, like HD ups or just HD ports of games prove anything, is people are willing to pay for this shit. But you're not providing us with an adequate way of doing it. And streaming games is not a proper way, because then as soon as my subscription's up, all those games get locked, and then I say screw it. I don't care anymore. Yeah.
And the other thing too is that used games aren't forever. Like, in the next 20 to 30 years, older manufactured cartridges of a lot of things, not just video games, but for other things, they're going to be so far deteriorated that they're not going to be playable anymore. That NES collection that, Pat the NES punk has, when he's 60, he's not going to be able to play it. Just for example. And discs are worse. Discs have a shelf life of 10 years at the most, if they're well maintained. There are PlayStation games I've already gotten that I've had for like 20 years that I can't play anymore because the disc is unreadable.
How about Game Boy games?
They're
already dead.
Yeah.
A lot of them are, there are ways. I know how to change a battery in a Game Boy game, but I'm sorry, that's incredibly risky for you to do that. Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, you've ruined your Game Boy game, or you just play a game that can never save again. Yeah. And it's starting to happen to Super Nintendo cartridges and NES cartridges now, because they don't have their batteries just can't hold the charge.
The batteries aren't as bad. What I'm talking more about is the actual connectors, because there's no protection for them. They're exposed. Even if you keep it in the box, it's exposed the entire time. That nickel copper connector is going to deteriorate. That's just a fact of how those elements work. So no matter what we do, we can clean our games as much as we want. We can, try to keep them in pristine condition, try to keep them in the most protected area. Those games eventually will rot and they will become unplayable. And CDs, like I said, discs are worse. They rot faster. Disc rot is a lot more common than cartridge rot or connector rot. And what we have now, the digital age, has proven to provide quite a bit, but it's not enough. It's not enough is being done so that these games are still accessible. Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, by all means, I'm happy to rebuy games I already own over, 2-3 times. But unless you're going to make them available, that's a sale you're not getting. And I understand how expensive it is to, license some games, games that weren't available back in the day that have to be rated now, that weren't rated back in the day, all that bullshit. But I guarantee you, somebody who owns a Switch is probably going to go and buy the Donkey Kong Country trilogy again because they had, they remember playing it as a kid, and now they can take it with them wherever they go. Like, just as an example. And fucking, you know what, like, some games, like, if you don't want to ever re-release some games, like, like, if Cool Spot never comes out again, I don't think a lot of people are going to be upset. But, if you, let some of these games, like, fucking Rocket Knight Adventures, for example, you have to get an original cart to play that game. There's no other way to play it. Mm-hmm. So, and when that cart of mine dies, I'll have no way of playing that game ever, unless I go download it from an emulator and ROM site. So, if you'd like to make that sale again, I suggest you think about it.
Mm-hmm. And like us, there are companies that are already doing this type of stuff. Like
Nintendo
Capcom
went a step in the right direction with the Wii Virtual Console.
All right, you guys like Mega Man? We're going to release a Mega Man collection. We're going to release an X collection. It just came out.
And like I said, with the Wii Virtual Console, that was a step in the right direction because they were getting non-Nintendo games, like Master System games, on the fucking Wii. That was a step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So they were doing it, but it was a slow process because licensing and all this other shit, and then they don't know what's going to sell or whatnot. So, but
do you think that they knew that it was going to have a shelf life? Because that's what these digital copies, these emulations had shelf lives. Because now, once the Wii Shop channel is out and you lose your hard drive, sorry, you can't download these games anymore.
I think their thought was, I made the sale then, so it doesn't matter.
So that's it. It's just
Nintendo was the worst for that, though. They set up the worst infrastructure for everything. Remember how long friend codes fucking lasted? You still have to do a friend code on the Switch.
We're still bitching. We're still bitching about the fucking marketplace on the Switch, for Christ's sake.
Oh my god, it's so bad.
It's so bad. And that's the thing, is you provide these things and you don't give us any adequate way to properly use it. No wonder people are just saying, you know what, fucking, I'm just gonna fucking emulate this. And yes, there is that one guy that all he does is wait for, to download cracked CD cracks and all that type of stuff. It's the same type of guy that goes and watches a movie through a video camera, right? There are people out there. But if mobile games and re-releases of old games have proven, there is still a market for this shit. There is still a market. You make so much money off of this stuff. Imagine how many people spent $4.99 to play the original Super Mario Bros. Right?
And not just pay $4.99, pay $4.99 for the sixth time.
For the sixth time. I mean, I'm notorious. I have bought Resident Evil 4 on so many systems that I feel like I could hold up. I can't hold my entire collection of it in my hand. Because I like the game, I want to have it on multiple systems, and because I do capture this footage, I stream and do all those things. It's important to me to have some of the most convenient way to play these games when I want to play them. And the more, and this still goes into the preservation of the things, is allowing people access to these things allows more people to view them on YouTube, to view them on streaming services like Twitch.tv. I mean, I haven't picked up Mario and Rabbids, but I watched a streamer play it, and I eventually do want to play it myself.
I can attest it is a pretty good game.
Yeah, right? And you picked it up because you saw what it was offering. You're like, you know what? I'm going to pick that up. And that's the thing, is these types of things will come back. I mean, why do you think visual novels are so popular on Steam? Because they're quick, easy things to create, anime titties and all that type of stuff, but still, there is a market for that no one was tapping into, and now a bunch of third-party people that are just buying up these visual novel licenses from Japan for peanuts are making a fortune. They're making shovelware. Like, they really are. But
Yeah,
they're
it's true.
converting like these graphic novels, or they're converting these things that are like 10 years old and still making a profit because now they're finally being localized. I mean, people still bitch about frickin' Earthbound 3 or whatever.
Mother 3.
Is it Mother 3? Mother 3. It's not Earthbound 3, but Mother 3. Why have we still not gotten that? People want it.
Fuck, the original ROM translation for it, they have contact with Nintendo. They said, do you guys want our translation so you can re-release it on the Wii U Virtual Console? And there was nothing.
And what did they get? They got a cease and desist order from them.
I don't think they did, no.
Yeah, they did.
Did they?
They did get a cease and desist. Yeah.
But they don't have the
because
ROM,
they were providing an unofficial translation to a ROM, not to an official copy.
That's a fair use though. So
yeah.
If they took it to court, they would lose.
It doesn't, like, we have already established that fair use means nothing in today's society,
especially with Nintendo.
Yeah.
Oh
well, no, it is with Nintendo as long as you give them 75% and then YouTube,
yeah, fuck that,
and Google take another 50% of whatever's left, so you only get like $1 for 1 million views. Right?
Fuck that. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna copyright my hands and then send a cease and desist to Nintendo and be like, you can't copyright this gameplay because I own it.
Yeah. Because I played it.
I played
my
it.
copyrighted
So
hands.
you can cease and desist, or I'll take you to court.
Well, that's the thing.
That's what we need to do. Let's players need to start copyrighting their hands, and then and copyrighting their voices, and then just send Nintendo be like, sorry, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of, I know someone like Markiplier, I believe his voice. Same thing with voice actors and stuff like that. You can actually license your voice. So if you're used, obviously because you own your own voice, you can be in whatever you want. But if somebody wants to use your voice, they actually may have to pay royalties depending upon the type that they use it. If there wasn't a consent form. Mm-hmm. So if they use footage of you, and they're and look how amazing the Nintendo community is. And they've got Jacksepticeye, but he didn't actually say yes for them to use a picture of him or 30 seconds of him. But to them, that's fair use. But to him, he's but you ding my videos all the time.
Yeah.
God, hell, the freaking Detroit Become Human wouldn't have gotten as much traction if it wasn't for the fact that the guy that played Connor in the game didn't stream the game. It became even more popular because one of the actors was watching himself and playing himself in the video game.
Fuck, it's...
So, this type of marketing is the same way that allows us to preserve games. By having Chugga Conroy do an entire playthrough of Earthbound and adding a unique spin to it has upped again people's thoughts of, oh wow, wasn't Earthbound a great game? Now, I don't personally think it is, but that's a personal opinion.
When I got most into it is when both HVG, Happy Video Gamer, now Stop Skeletons from Fighting, and Roof from the Clan of the Grey Wolf did their videos on it. Because they covered so much information on it. And, I knew it existed because I had a friend who had a copy of it, but I never played it until later on, and it's a great fucking game. This is the same, just taking us back full circle. This is why emulation is so important, and preservation of games is so important, because you want to go buy an original copy of Earthbound right now, good fucking luck. I hope you're loaded. Though now it's available on Wii U Virtual Console, but how long is that going to be available? That just brings us back to another question: how long is this stuff going to be available? And with the Wii Virtual Console being gone,
just say that every iteration of a console, from the Wii to the Wii U to the Switch, if the market boards just crossed those platforms, I'd have absolutely no problem.
Exactly, because, and this is why, is something that Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, I don't see Microsoft, if anything, is probably doing the best at this, because when I sign into my brother's Xbox One with my Xbox account, like my Xbox Live account, it knows all the games I own and asks, and I can re-download them at any time. Like, that's great. I can't re-download any of my PS3 purchases on the PS4. And I understand some of that, but like, it's just, it can't be that difficult to do that. Like, be able to download my PS1 classics on my PS4. Like, it's just, like, they have to do something with the Switch with Virtual Console. They have to do something.
Yeah, because, well, that's what the NES library thing is going to be about.
Like, do something to where, like, they have an archive of the games that you own, that you bought from them. Because they don't.
Yeah. Because it's easier to get the person to pay for them again. Right? It's not about loyalty. It's about loyalty to open your wallet and give them more money for
it.
Between
the Wii and the Wii U, they did. I don't know why this is not something that's available yet.
No, because obviously, I understand that also firmware and like a new OS also plays into factors. Like, it's the same reason, like, obviously you can't play Wii and Wii U games on the Switch. It doesn't have a disc tray now, right? And like trying to get digital versions of those Wii games and everything would just be, it's too much of a headache, right? I'm not asking for that type of backwards compatibility, but yeah, digital information is digital information.
Exactly.
It's not coded differently than other pieces of digital. Like, okay, if Emu Paradise can do a 1-to-1 and in some instances make games run better, like for example, Resident Evil 2 on PlayStation 1, emulating it saves so much time in the loading screens than if you played it on a PS1 or even a PS3.
Yeah.
You know, and if that emulation can be that good on a PC-based system with a third-party designed emulator, what the hell?
Like, okay, just another example for Nintendo. 2 emulators I can think of off the top of my head. Dolphin and Citra. Dolphin can play GameCube games, Wii games, and Wii U games, all upscaled in 1080p. And so if your computer can handle it, 4K. And it's apparently super easy to program. Why the fuck don't they have that? Like, available on, on the Switch, or just, for example, Citra. Citra can enhance the game's visuals based on how good your graphics card is. You can play Pokemon Sun and Moon in 4K if you want to, if your computer can handle it.
And the games look good.
And look, I'm not telling Nintendo to start making 3DS games available on the Switch. Like, I'm not telling them to start making, like, my digital 3DS games work, but my Wii and Wii U games that I have digital, like my Virtual Console stuff, start with that. Make it so that I can play Super Air Zonk from my Wii on my Switch. That's it. That's all. That's where I am, like, I'm happy.
Man, if I could play the original Harvest Moon, because getting a cart of the original Harvest Moon, that's costing you.
Exactly. I mean, you have a Japanese version because you got lucky.
Yeah. But, like, I still would like a real, like, Super Nintendo one, not a Super Famicom version of the game, though. Not that the game needs me to see the English in it.
You probably know it so well you don't even have to read.
Yeah, I know exactly, because the game itself is it's very basic now compared to, like, some of the newer Harvest Moons and like Rune Factories and all the other things that are in those franchises. But, like, that's the thing, is I was so happy to see Harvest Moon pop up on the Wii Virtual Console, on the Wii U Virtual Console, and now, well, I'll never get another. I'll have to always play my Wii U to play Harvest Moon.
The thing to remember, too, is that we don't, like, Nintendo so far has said they don't have any plans for the Virtual Console, but that doesn't mean they don't have any plan for re-releasing some of these games. So,
but it will be part of their subscription service.
That's the thing too. Like, I don't like that. I think
I can't buy the game.
That's why I don't have PlayStation now, and I don't have the whatever fucking Xbox's thing is. because I don't want to stream these games.
And it isn't like PlayStation Plus, where you, as long as you're subscribed to that service for a year, you get 2 free games per month. And I'm told, and like those are digital downloads, full games. They're not streamed or anything like that. Right now, you can get Mafia 3 for free if you have a PlayStation Plus account. That's a big ass game. There's a lot of stuff to do in that.
Mm-hmm.
And you just get it. And you can play it. And as long as you're subscribed to their online service, not a streaming service, their
as long as you're subscribed to PlayStation Plus,
you get these games for free.
That's your game.
And they're different, technically. They're different on PS3. So if you plug in your PS3, you get 2 other games for free by having one subscription every month.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them can be played in offline mode. You don't need to be logged in to play them. Hell, there are certain games that can be played between users. Like Stardew Valley, for example. As long as you have a digital copy of it on your PlayStation, it doesn't lock you out. It doesn't matter which user is playing. Like if you have your user on my PS4 downstairs, I could log into that and play that digital copy on the PlayStation 4 on your account. You wouldn't have had to purchase it.
And I mean, I totally wouldn't care if you used my account for anything. Not that you. But you said
but that's the thing is like there's already an infrastructure for this type of shit, but they don't promote it. They don't enhance it. They don't bring it forward and say, "Hey, this is how it is." I mean, hell, the PS4's marketing strategy of like, well, what if you wanted to trade games with a friend? It was funny because it was just one guy handing a game to another and like, see, you can do this on PS4. You can't do it on Xbox, right? They capitalized on a faulty part of the Xbox One's thing, and Xbox has suffered ever since because of it. But if these types of things are allowed in these services, like, I'm fairly sure if I unsubscribed from PlayStation Plus, half the PlayStation Plus games that I've purchased, I could still play them. Just because they haven't added anything to the infrastructure saying that these games must be PlayStation Plus exclusive. They're not locked.
That makes me want to do a test. If I turn my internet off and try to play one of my PlayStation Plus free downloaded games, see if it'll work. I've heard that it won't work, that it'll still check, but like, will it actually? Like, because they have to program into these games for that. They'd have to program DRM into every single PlayStation Plus game. I don't think they're going to do that. That's too much work. Like doing like putting in like enhancements for old games is too much work for these game companies. So I don't see them doing that. I almost kind of want to test that. I want to turn off the Wi-Fi or just the internet.
Like just say your internet's down.
Yeah.
Like, when like that's a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Like I'm still subscribed to the service. It's not like I canceled my subscription. But there are certain games that sometimes do require them and others don't. Like, I'm fairly sure a lot of single-player games don't require them, but multiplayer games do.
Well, yeah.
Like, for example, like Monster Hunter. It checks. It goes online and it checks certain things when you load up the game.
But you can play Monster Hunter World offline.
You can play it offline, but it does do a check to link you up to the servers for like, special events and other things like that. Like,
like games will do that. But like, it's not like you could, like, when I was having a disconnection issue in the last couple of weeks, which I think they fixed now, it would kick me out and make me re-log into the game, but it would say no internet connection going into offline hub or something.
Oh,
like that.
Here's just another thing that I'm just thinking of because I was watching Carcinogen running through it, is if it wasn't for emulation, you couldn't play Resident Evil Outbreak Files 1 and 2 online ever again. You'd have to either play them single player or in some cases you just can't play them. Because they were online focused.
You can use Excellent Kai for a lot of stuff. Actually, when Monster Hunter Freedom and Freedom 2 first came out, there was no ad hoc party. which was their weird way of being able to get online using the ad hoc signal. So I remember I bought a Wi-Fi extender Max, which made an ad hoc signal from your computer, and I got X-Link Kai, and that's how Corey and I were able to play Monster Hunter Freedom online for the for a few years when we wanted to play Monster Hunter online. That was the only way we could do it. We, to be fair though, my brother Corey and I would all play Monster Hunter Freedom together, and Freedom 2 I think we all played together as well. So, but like, there were times when I would play that game online, just like by plugging a stick into my friggin' laptop at the time. And I could get into a chat room, and you could make a room of 4 people, and you would be connected to that room. So there's ways around it. There is ways around it. Like, that Resident Evil game, I actually want to try that one. But I know the setup's going to be
Outbreak.
awesome.
Outbreak is it, and those were fantastic games.
Yeah, I know, but I know the setup's going to be.
Sorry, can't play them unless you emulate them now.
Yeah,
because they're just locked out.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even have like a single player option because they need to check certain things. So you're like, oh crap! Now, if I wanted to play it co-op, you can actually do it through an emulator.
Mm-hmm.
And let's also be clear that even with emulators, anything that had a disc onwards, you can put most PlayStation 1 and 2 games into your CD-ROM drive, and the emulator will run it off the disc. So things like Final Fantasy Tactics, I could stick it into my CD-ROM drive and emulate it. So I've purchased the game. I have a physical copy of my game, and I'm using the emulation software to play it.
Oh, dude, the whole reason, what's it called? Bleem got away with it for so long is because you had to own the game. You could not use like an ISO of a game. You had it checked to make sure you're using a legit copy of a game. And that was one way they were circumventing piracy, is because, and being able to be an emulator for so long in the same era that PlayStation 1 was being sold, because it had the same rules that the PlayStation 1 did. You couldn't play, pirated games on it. Of course, people found a way to mod it in and stuff like that, but the company itself didn't add that as a feature. And that's why I think they didn't.
Imagine that for a second, that we could have, that Nintendo could create a first-party device that could load into your computer via USB. Mm-hmm. That you could just put a game into an external device and run it right as if it was a Super Nintendo through USB.
Or even better, be able to sign into your Nintendo account, which is all the same fucking account, but they're not linked on systems for some reason, and you could see your entire game library and just play it. Wouldn't that be great?
I mean, hell, what Xbox does with old Xbox games is you put the old Xbox game in your Xbox One, and then it just downloads the disc onto your hard drive, and you emulate it.
Exactly. And
that's how they're getting away with being able to emulate old Xbox One and Xbox 3, or Xbox games and Xbox 360 games.
And you know what? I give Microsoft a lot of shit because I think the Xbox One's not that great. But the fact that immediately when I signed into my Xbox Live account on my brother's system, it knew what games I owned from the digital games I owned, and I could just launch them right from there or download them. Like, it didn't matter that I was on an Xbox One instead of an Xbox 360. It just knew I had those games, and it started letting me get them. Was just, like, it's almost like it's not 100%, but their marketplace is closer than anybody else's to being able to just play your games, the same games on your 360 that you bought digitally, and play them on your Xbox One the same. Like, it baffles me that this is not a regular feature in all game consoles currently. Like, this is not something that's not in there. Like, they had to have thought of it at some point. So there must be some other reason why, but we may never get the answer to that.
Well, no. As long as certain things go about their ways, we're just gonna have to shill out more money and have to keep building that wall of games.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we're gonna be able to play some of these things come not too long. But obviously, the internet is forever. It's not as if Nintendo took a giant, like, FU to emulation. There are still hundreds of places you can still get these things.
Yeah.
And by just shutting down the biggest name is not preventing people from still going out and getting it. It's just, it's taking away the easy convenience.
Exactly.
Right?
So,
and then from there, it's like, well, all right, the next big Emu Paradise will come up. I mean, how many times has Mega Upload, for Christ's sakes, been taken down?
It's who I use now for uploading stuff.
But now they're situated in New Zealand.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So they pick up and they move somewhere else. And the biggest thing that happened, and this is something that I'll always point at, is Napster. Right? Napster, Kazaa, LimeWire, those services slowly disintegrated, but uTorrent is still big. But they slowly disappeared because people were able to get money or get music at an affordable price. The reason why, the biggest reason why Apple had a resurgence was due to the fact that they were able to provide songs for 99 cents. That they provided an infrastructure and a way for people to get this entertainment quickly and efficiently. It's the reason why I have a subscription to fucking Spotify.
Yeah. I mean, I have a subscription to Apple Music.
I could download all this music illegally and make it simple, or it's all on Spotify and I pay $5 a month and it goes to it. Hopefully it goes to the people that I'm listening to.
Spotify's only $5 a month. Fuck, maybe I should switch from Apple Music to that, because like Apple Music is $10 a month. And
I think it's more. I don't know if it's $5. I think it may be like $7.99.
I don't know. That's still cheaper. But yeah, like Apple Music, it's so easy. If I want to go find now, like, just Hopes Fall's new album came out, and I forgot that it came out. I'm like, oh shit, I need to get this. Now, of course, I bought it on vinyl and CD anyways. But because I have Apple Music, if I want to listen to it now, I can just go into my music, look up artists, Hopes Fall. Oh hey, Arbiter is now available. Add it to my library. I don't have to download it or anything. It's right there. It's available. I can now start listening to this right now. I didn't have to go to a shop to go buy it. I didn't have to go, put in I didn't have to search for it or to hope it was in my wish list. Nintendo. Fuck. I got it right away.
Yeah.
And all their old albums are on there too. And Hopes Fall, for example, is a artist who have been across other labels. They were with Trustkill, and if you don't know what Trustkill is, you should trust them to kill your band. That's basically what they were known for. They were really shitty about a really shitty record label. They're dead in the water now. And all the old albums that they were holding on to and for dear life, because this is our IP. We can't give this back to the band who made the music. It's ours. Now it's available all on Apple Music because the band got their rights back. Like shit like that. It's just, I want to finish. We're getting over time here, so I want to finish this off with just something I want to say to Nintendo. So, Nintendo, you've won nothing. Getting rid of these websites literally does nothing. It may make it harder for average Joe trying to get his games, but if he wants it bad enough, he'll find a way. And
it's easier for him to do that than trying to do it legitimately.
It is easier right now for me to go download a ROM of the Donkey Kong Country trilogy than buy it from you. And I would happily do that. Again, buy the same games a fifth time. But you don't have an easy way of doing that, and I can't play my past purchases on any other of the newer systems, so I'm not going to do that. If I want to play that new game, that Super Airzock that I just bought off the fucking Virtual Console on my Wii, if I want to play it on my Wii U, it's not available. But I purchased it. I should be able to play it on my Switch. So you know what? If I want to play it, I'm going to have to mod my Wii U or my Switch and play it that way and put an emulator and a ROM on it, because that's more convenient than just giving me the ability to replay my games again. So Nintendo, this is not the way you should be handling this. You're fighting a losing battle if you think that getting rid of ROMs
you
is going to fix the problem.
shouldn't even be fighting this battle.
You shouldn't be. You should be spending this time and effort to fucking fix your stupid infrastructure. So that a game that I bought on DSi 10 years ago, I could play on my Switch right now, but I can't. So, you know what? Maybe this doesn't mean a thing to you, but people are going to get sick of it. People are going to stop supporting it. And if you don't fucking find a way to fix this shit, Sony, you can listen to this too. Microsoft, you're in the right. You're in the right on this one. You're doing well, but you need to do better. But you guys need to fucking fix this shit. I should be able to find my purchases from fucking my Wii Virtual Console on my Switch. Why is there no way to do that? This is a very angry podcast. I just realized.
I mean, yeah. Well, it's a topic that it's difficult because and this is the thing, is this anger does not come from the fact that, oh, you made angry video gamers that want to emulate your games mad. This is about people that would love for you to be able to offer these games to us so we can spend our money for you. But you're attacking the wrong thing. You're acknowledging the fact that these games need to be preserved and they shouldn't be shilled out or sold by third parties or they hurt the sales of these games. Your heart's in the right place, but you're attacking the wrong thing. Rather than solving the problem, you're just attacking the people that are solving the problem. You know, talk to the people that create these emulators. See if they can get that type of hardware working on your devices. Hell, if you can get a frickin' Super Nintendo emulator to work on a smartphone, for Christ's sakes. If you can get it to work on a smartphone, why can't you get it working on your Switch?
Just an example, the whole reason PlayStation 1 Classics exists, or the backwards compatibility in the PS2, PS1, and the PS3, is because the dude who made Bleem worked for Sony. So, Sony took a step to get the person who made the emulation software to emulate PS1 games on PCs, and hired him to be the guy to make the emulation on the PS3 for PS1, and in some cases PS2 games. And again, you know, Sony's still not the you know, the best in this light. They still have a ton of work they got to do. And Microsoft is probably in the best in terms of, you know, being able to get your old games and use them on a new system. But again, they still have a lot of work to do. But you know who has the most work to do? It's fucking Nintendo. All right. But I think that's it. I think we're done bitching about this now.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like we're looking at almost an hour and 40 minutes.
Right?
I put out the call for questions. We didn't really get any questions for this podcast. It was late asking for podcast questions. It's my bad. I'll try to be sooner about that. But that's basically going to do the podcast, unless you have anything else you want to say.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing that sticks out now.
Okay. Well,
it's like I said, I understand that we can't get everything, right? There's just no way.
I mean,
that we could ever
realistically, I don't expect Nintendo to make Super Airlock available on the Switch. Like, realistically, yeah. I don't. What I would like, again, is the fact that I purchased it on the Wii good enough so that I can play it on the Switch. Like, that would be nice. Like,
their business, unfortunately, their business, like, there's a reason why that's not possible.
I know. But
because they would rather you pay for it again than actually offer you the ability
the long and short of it, they want you to buy it again. And that's the thing.
And that's what the Super, that's what the NES Classic and the Super Nintendo Classic are for.
Exactly.
They're designed for you to purchase these things again.
But I think that'll do it before we get going any further. So just quick updates. I have, let's see, I've, quick update for anybody listening to this who hasn't seen the update on my, Let's Play channel. I'm switching to one video a day now. I'm not getting rid of any shows. I'm going to alternate between Zero Plays and Power Plays and whatnot. Also, my stream times are changing because I'm actually working a different shift now. So for starting in September, I'm still going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Time instead of 11 p.m. Eastern Time, which I think will be better because more people will want to come out and see me play games at 8 rather than 11. So that's updates for me. Also, started writing the Mega Man 8 review. I'm a page and a half in, and I'm still talking about the intro stage. So we'll see what that means when the final video comes out. Any updates from you on your end?
I can't remember if I mentioned this last podcast, but I did release on the RCG YouTube page the Adventures In. It's a new series that we're sort of starting. That is just, if it's like a solo thing where it's like a pseudo Let's Play, but it's heavily edited type of stuff. I released of the Rathalos event in Final Fantasy XIV. That was a fun video to put together. I'm also working on another RCG Plays right now, which should be, I don't want to say that it's almost done, because always every time that I play it back or I render a part of it, something looks off and I go back and I fix it, or something just isn't like set up right. So it should be coming out before the end of the month for sure. And I finally got like a date for my commission, so that's going to be finished and ready to go, and then I can release my review of Ruby a Grim Hope, or Grim Eclipse. Sorry, not Grim Hope. It's a different thing.
Also,
so that'll be done, and yeah, that's pretty much all that I'm working on right now. But yeah, no, there's a couple of things that we can get to for right now.
Also, CJ and I were on the latest episode of the River City Gamers podcast.
Well, technically you were.
I was.
Sort of like,
you kind of came in late, but you were still there.
Yeah.
So, so that's going to be up on rivercitygamers.com and on the River City Gamers YouTube channel, which I'll probably have linked on my social media. Speaking of social media, you can follow me on Facebook at Zero Master fan page, Twitter at Zero Master, Instagram at Zero Master LP, and I stream on Twitch, and that is Zero Master LP. Again, that's Tuesdays and Thursdays. Currently at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, switching over to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And where can people find you, Canadian Jutsu?
Pretty much everywhere. Just Canadian Jutsu, whatever. Like twitch.tv/Canadian Jutsu. YouTube is a little bit weirder, but I'm fairly sure my pseudo, I'm going to call it my gaming channel now rather than my Let's Play channel, is actually, I got the URL for Canadian Jutsu. So I believe that it's just straight up.
Oh, wait, for YouTube. Real? It's just Canadian Jutsu?
Canadian Jutsu.
I'm going to have to update
because it allowed me
then.
to pick my URL. You can still do the L's and the I's and everything still, too. Yeah. That's still a thing. It's just...
So is it just straight up Canadian Jutsu now?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so... so just a heads up, by the way, guys. He got some copyright strikes on the abridging...
On my abridged channel. Oh, yeah, that should also be in my news. Just in case... if you're watching this trying to find my channel, if it has been removed from the internet, either by me and / or YouTube, the abridging channel has got hit in the midst of the night a couple of days ago with like a bunch of quote unquote anime copyright law infringements. So all of them were manual too, by the way. That was a thing that I recently found out, that somebody watched the videos and decided that I was infringing their copyright. It wasn't like a bot that did it. Because a lot of those videos that were hit have been around for a really long time and have no business having the bot now finally check them after all these years. So that's a scary thing. So that channel may be gone by the time this podcast goes up, so we'll see. But you can, like I said, you can still find me. I'm still on YouTube. I'll answer any comments or anything like that that are posted on that
You're
page.
also probably going to be putting your reviews that you've done on your gaming channel.
I'm going to actually upload both Hyrule Warriors and Hello Kitty Roller Rescue. Such a I mean, it's only 2 reviews, but such a wide range of games.
But but that's also good because like when the new review comes out, like you'll be like, hey, remember these old 2 videos I did? They're new again, except they're just re-uploads.
Except they're not. Yeah.
What's old
not
is
that they
new
have
again.
a shit ton of views on my Abridged channel anyway.
Yeah.
But from that's just a thing. But yeah, no, on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, which I still haven't set up yet, but eventually I will. Yeah, you just search Canadian Jutsu on the internet. You'll find me very, very quickly.
I think what we should do, like if you don't do it, I know I've threatened to make a Facebook fan page for you. I think I should now, especially since your channel is one of your channels got the strikes and you're going to be re-uploading those videos. That's just another way people can see your your videos.
Yeah, and I can get a gauge on who is actually following my stuff too.
Yeah.
Because that's like the hardest thing right now is my Abridged channel has such a diverse difference in which videos get viewed a lot and then others. So it'd be interesting to see who's just interested in just little old me rather than just like Twin Star Exorcist Abridged or Inuyasha the Abridged series.
Exactly. But either way, guys, that's going to be the podcast. Once again, I'm Zero Master, and with me as my co-host is
Canadian Jutsu.
And we'll see you guys next time. And yeah, Nintendo, what the fuck?
Yeah, please listen to us, even though you'll never will. But anyway, take care. Stay frosty, guys.